welcome to Four Corners. I'm Isabella Poulden. Tonight we explore the fashion industry. As the world is bombarded with an unending supply of dirt cheap clothes, our team will be voicing their concerns regarding the fashion industry's sustained exploitation of human, animal and natural resources. The fashion industry has undergone a mass revolution. It has shifted into a way of producing that benefits big business. In the 1960s, the United States made 90% of its clothing. Today, that number has dropped to 3%. Fast fashion means that there are 52 seasons a year instead of 2. This enables big fashion companies to shift more products. Globalized production has allowed for the making of goods to be outsourced to cheaper places. It is not ethical that the use of cheap labor has forced people to work for less than a livable wage in dangerous conditions in order for companies to sell mass amounts of clothes at unbelievably low prices, making huge profits. Australians love a bargain. But what's the real cost of cheap clothes? The Rana Plaza building collapse in Bangladesh, April 2013, killed over 1,000 workers. The building housed 5 garment factories that manufactured goods for major retail companies. This was a turning point. However, despite numerous initiatives and attempts at transparency of supply chains, ethical standards remain low. What efforts do Australian companies make to ensure that the factories are safe and their workers earn a living wage? Some companies have instigated the practice of fair trade, meaning that they assure consumers that workers in foreign countries receive fair and livable wages for the work they do in producing the clothes we wear. But this is not the norm. On tonight's episode of Four Corners, the ABC's ethical fashion correspondent, Alex Rain, goes inside the fashion.
An example of unethical fashion manufacturing is one of the world's largest companies, Nike. For years, reports of sweatshop abuse have swept the globe with allegations of violations of human rights of their workers. Nike sweatshop abuse was uncovered in 1991 when activists accused the company of low wages and poor working conditions in Indonesia. Issues began to rise with the protests at the 1993 Olympics in Barcelona. Nike's lack of response to these claims in the 90s made the then CEO Phil Knight realize that change needed to occur for the company to prosper in the future. In 2011, workers from a factory 90 kilometers from Jakarta say supervisors physically and mentally abuse them by frequently throwing shoes at them, slapping them in the face and calling them dogs and pigs. Nike's response to this abuse was that there was little they could do. Critics of Nike doubt whether they are doing enough to fully combat the problem, as statistics show poor management of Nike audits in their sweatshops. With over 1,000 workshops worldwide, 168 produce Converse shoes. 12 of these factories are in the most serious category, indicating problems such as long work hours or denying Nike inspectors. Another 97 are defined as making no progress improving violations to human rights, such as verbal harassment or paying less than minimum wage. The remaining 6 have not been audited by Nike.
A huge fashion issue is the textile waste. In Australia, 6,000 kilograms of clothes are burned every minute in landfill. Indeed, Aussie people are not that environment friendly. They buy an average of 27 kilograms of textile and dispose of 29 kilograms each year, sending up to 85% of their clothes to landfill. This huge clothes waste are spurred by the fashion trend and the marketing logic that urge customers to buy new clothes. Sustainable fashion experts advocate abstaining from buying fast fashion, promoting clothes swap, repairing clothes, or buy vintage. Others suggest to buy ethically sourced clothes or designing clothing using zero waste technique. Even though these strategies are very admirative, it only delays the clothes ending up in the landfill. The animals. In other parts, the clothes industry harms animals by polluting their habitats and disrupting their food chains. According to Mark Houghton, which is the CEO of the International Fair Trade Federation, high fashion labels such as Fendi, Marc Jacobs, Mulberry, or Gucci are putting fur at the forefront of what is considered fashionable leading to an increase of the global sale of fur by 70% in the past decade. But why exactly does that matter? Many animals are bred in captivity in battery cage, it's like 85% of the fur industry skin, and live their short existence deprived of quality of life and the ability to perform their wild behavior. The killing methods are totally unethical. They use a lot of torturing methods, from electrocution to gassing and beating. While trapping is another method, especially in the US and in Canada. Nowadays, up to 80% of the global fur is produced in China, a country which has no welfare regulation and no animal protection laws. But moreover, the pesticides from cotton farming and dyes from textile processing that wash into rivers pollute entire food chain with hazardous products. Huge amounts of animals die every year, including fish, because of the pollution. To put an end to that issue, a code of conduct should be implemented at an international scale. As we can see, regulation differs from one country to another. It is required to homogenize the regulation
Being a fashionista these days comes with its own set of responsibilities. There is still hope as consumers are becoming more and more ethically conscious. For example, Reformation is a revolutionary women's lifestyle brand designed and manufactured in Los Angeles. Reformation is a certified B Corp, holding themselves accountable to a high set of standards on both environmental and social practices. Reformation calculates the carbon, water and waste footprint of its products and publishes these figures using the initiative RefScale on each of its products' descriptions. The whole equation follows the life cycle of clothes, everything from growing the textile fibers, making the fabric, dyeing, moving materials, manufacturing, packaging, shipping, garment care, and recycling the clothes when you're done with them. The brand only uses materials with a sustainability ethos. An important dimension on ethical consumption initiatives, therefore, becomes finding ways of not just enabling people to change their consumption, although that is important, but also facilitating widespread public participation in debates and decisions about meanings, objectives, and responsibilities involved in contemporary consumption. Ethical fashion brands such as Reformation offer knowledge and advice to the intellect of consumers about their ethical obligation. They also call on a consumer's responsibility to care for others and therefore deontological beliefs. Utilitarian ethics are also prominent in the brand's images and marketing as they promote the best for all involved, from ethical production, which doesn't harm the environment or the workers or harming consumers. An empirical study on ethical fashion consumerism conducted in Sweden highlights the importance of virtue ethics, where theories of justice, compassion, intelligence led to human flourishment and enlightening our self-interest and caring for others. Furthermore, personal integrity, represented by certain personal values, being the motivation for most ethical consumers in their purchasing decisions. Do your research. When it comes to shopping, knowledge is the first step to buying better. Documentaries like The True Cost give everyone a visual reminder on why ethical fashion is so important. Furthermore, Baptist World Aid have set up an online database where you can search your favourite brands and see how they rank. Popular brands like Roger David, Oxford and Beck's all receive an F, whereas brands like Audrey Blue, Mighty Good Undies receive an A+. This is a way of determining why some brands are more ethical than others and to motivate your purchases accordingly. Finally, there's an app you can download on your phone called Good On You, which gives you the details of the brand you're considering splurging on. 2. Invest well. As Vivienne Westwood once said, buy less, choose well, make it last. People tend to choose instant gratification over long-term satisfaction, but being more considerate about purchases we invest in saves money, the planet, and the long term. Buy fair trade, small businesses, shop on Etsy, shop local. 3. Rethink washing habits. 25% of a garment's carbon footprint comes from the way it's cared for. More sustainable garment care helps clothes last longer and in turn decreases environmental damage. Almost 70% of the clothes we throw away could be prevented with better care habits. 4. Reuse, repair and recycle. More than 1 million tonnes of textiles are thrown away each year. A WRAP survey suggested that extending a garment's life by just 9 months could reduce carbon, waste, and footprints by around 20-30% each. One way to do this is through restoration, patching holes, installing new zippers, sewing new buttons, or simply customizing.
Change anything.
When everything is concentrated on making profits, what you see is that human rights, the environment, workers' rights get lost.
My God, we can do better than this.
In this unethical system, we realise that although awareness has been effective in seeing some improvement, a solution would require systematic change. Ethical fashion is on the rise, but there is not a simple answer to this wicked problem. It involves many stakeholders with different values and priorities, and a problem with innumerable causes. The fashion industry seems to work as a multi-party prisoner's dilemma. Companies are working against each other to sell their clothing for the lowest possible price. They need to produce these garments at the cheapest possible price to remain competitive, even though this means that all steps of the supply chain are damaged. Australians need to ask themselves, who made my clothes? And where will they remain for hundreds of years after I no longer need them? 52 seasons a year stretches the whole supply chain. However, for big fashion brands, if you stop that, you will fall out of the running. There is more on this story on the ABC Online at www.abc.net.au/4corners. Thank you for watching this week's edition of Four Corners.